The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. His tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
I know I have to do it. I'm compelled to do it.
I like to make this picture for the wall. And still, today, I got this fire.
I have to do it without much question. I have to get rid of my memories.
I have actually walked through that path and seen it with my own eyes.
For these caged birds, art was their liberation song. These landscapes were created by an ambitious young man who wanted more than anything to be a famous artist. He went to Vienna to fulfill his dream and applied to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts, but was rejected twice. His failure as an artist drove him to refocus his passion for painting into a new art form. His paints were propaganda speeches. Now he painted himself onto a much larger canvas. With Hitler's rise to power, he transformed his obsession with art towards the creation of destruction. His first victims were the artists he once tried so to emulate. Art was confiscated, books were burned, and museums were shut forever. This first assault against the artists drove Hitler to cleanse Europe of all those he believed to be degenerates. Now, instead of capturing beautiful landscapes, Hitler captured people.
When it came Kristallnacht, they started to break our windows. Everything was taken from us.
When Hitler marched into Poland, September 1st, 1939, my life changed with that first explosion.
Very short time after it, we had to wear Jewish star, and we had to wear it all the time.
I was 4 years old when we were rounded up, and a Nazi guard tore my doll away from me, and my mother was holding on to me.
Our odyssey began, the odyssey towards destruction and my personal suffering began at that moment.
Hitler's raw cruelty unleashed a new genre of artists who documented the horror chambers. They were the defiant witnesses. They refused to go quietly and had the courage to see what they would see. They fought back with the only weapons they had: paintbrushes, charcoal, and pencils. For an artist, it is impossible not to create, testifying to the strength of the human spirit.
You wanted to tell this story through this book, Daddy, didn't you? Yes. That's how he saw it in his mind when he drew it. You didn't talk about these things, not even with the children. The children learned from this book.
I came to Theresienstadt very early in February 1942 with my family, and I was 11 years old. We knew that something will happen when we stepped into the entrance to Theresienstadt, what is a fortress. They started to separate us, and I was with my mother, and my grandmother went a different way. My uncles went a different way. We were separated into different barracks.
Theresienstadt, known as Terezin, was originally a garrison town designed for 4,000 people. During the war, it became a ghetto where 140,000 captured Jews were herded.
Suddenly a child was taken away from the normal way of life. Suddenly we are different, we are Jews, we have to be eliminated. You have not any more a home, you don't have any more parents which take care for you. You have to share a room with 35 other children.
We got one small mattress, and each person had 70 centimeters to so-called Lebensraum, a place to live. So the one luggage that we had was behind our head, and we used it almost like a headboard. About that time, we were already about 15,000 children in Terezin. So they opened up the children's home, and I was in one of the Czech children's home, L410.
In 1942, 11 children's homes were established. In a world of hunger and death, it made their lives a little more bearable.
Willy Groak was the superintendent of our house.
One nice day came the person responsible for the education of children to me and asked me whether I'm ready to be an educator at this children's home. And I told him yes.
Willy Groag was one of the teachers who served as special role models and surrogate parents to help the children survive their lonely and fearful days.
We could enjoy more or less a more normal life than others. We had a kind of education, and this enabled us to be sheltered from the horrors most of the other children had. We even had illegal studies. Of course, we knew that if an SS man is coming, we have to hide our piece of paper under the bed. And we had to pretend we are just doing a special subject, because if the SS man would take us apart and ask, what were you doing? The answers had to be the same.
One of our very favorite and very important teachers was Friedel-Decker Brandeis. She was somehow different than the other teachers. She would only talk about beautiful things. She was telling us not to see the atrocities. It made us feel like in a different world. It wasn't the world that we were living in.
Friedel had a lot of energy and a lot of influence on the children. It's not so easy to teach children of 14 to 16 years drawing. But she had big success, and the girls drew with great favor.
Surrounded by death and fear, one woman became the shining light.
She came with the paper and she was supplying us whatever she had. She was very casual about how we should express ourselves, and she said this would be very nice to do. And we loved it. We really loved it, and we loved her.
Art became a tool for escape and comfort for the children and the teachers as well.
And she showed me how to draw, for instance, eyes. There's a very nice picture of two eyes of a girl, which she made for me in order to show it to me.
This youth leader knew that as long as they are teaching there, they are in better condition. I mean, they are not the first to be sent away.
Without notice, the Nazis would round up prisoners and deport them to the death camps.
We knew that under her direction, we'd be somebody that can express not only with words, but also on paper something that is on our mind.
The art and culture that flourished under subhuman conditions were astounding, considering art supplies were difficult to come by. They used whatever they could, shreds of paper, cement sacks, and stolen office scraps. Inmates held on to their sanity through artistic activities.
When I got to Terezin, I was all of 20 years. The first work that I did was on a work detail, digging ditches. Suddenly a storm broke out and filled the ditch with water. We were under some kind of a shed, waiting for the rain to stop. And I found a piece of paper in my pocket and a little stub of a pencil, and started sketching trees that were in front of me. And then I sketched a little bit more and a little bit more, and that is how I started out. And I was recording what was around me.
Even the smallest sketch gave the artist a sense of control and freedom. But the Nazis also handpicked certain artists who they used for their own purposes.
The artists in Theresienstadt worked in a kind of technical bureau where officially they had to do all graphic things which were necessary for the life of the ghetto. But unofficially, they made a lot of other drawings which showed things of the real life in the ghetto. When they found what they really drew, and that were horror pictures, they were terribly mishandled and beaten up, and they were killed. That was very dangerous.
Frita was head of the art department in Terezin, and a fine artist, graphic artist in his own right. As head of the Zeichenstube, that is drafting office, they had access to paper that the Nazis supplied to them to do graphic works and propaganda work for their purposes. I remember one instant when I sort of worked up my courage, walked up to Frita and said, "Would you look at this?" And he looked at it, leafed through it, and said, "Terrible, irresponsible, unbelievable." And I was getting smaller and smaller, and he handed the work back to me and said, "It's good work, but if they find it on you, you are dead." And that is what happened to him. Frita was not doing some innocent work. He was trained in the German expressionist style and used it for all it's worth. His work was found out, and he was taken to a small fortress, and he was killed by the Nazis.
But Terezin was set up as the model ghetto to fool the world into believing that Hitler was treating the Jews well. In truth, it was just a transit stop on the way to Auschwitz.
Theresienstadt was designed from the beginning to bluff the International Red Cross, and other countries which were not yet in war asked, where are these famous Jews? Where are these children? Here they are, here they live.
A film was made at the same time. Now we knew that all these things that were being made, that were being filmed, were make-believe. There were playgrounds built and a bandstand. We hoped that the International Red Cross would see through it. All they had to do is go 50 yards right or left from the assigned path, and they would have seen reality.
The Germans were talking about what they will show for the Red Cross visit and propaganda film, and they agreed that children can sing. And when they said that, we started to sing, but very seriously. It was in 1943 that Rudi Freudenfeld came to Terezin, and he smuggled in the notes of the children's opera, Brundibar. And it was in the attic of the boys' school, L417, and we came to the attic to try to be part in the opera. And we were lined up, and when it came my turn, so I had to sing La La La, you know. And Rudy said, "And you be the cat." He took black shoe polish and he made me whiskers. I had black hair anyway, and I wore my mother's black sweater and my sister's ski pants. But I didn't have shoes. He painted also a little bit my feet with a shoe polish. When we started to practice the opera, you know, there were no instrument only. There was a piano without legs, and there was a guitar. Only time that we didn't have to put the star on was when we performed Brundibar. victory song was the last song of the opera. It was changed in Terezin, different words to it, because the original was talking about mothers, fathers, and homeland, and we didn't have that. Brundibar poražen, už jsme ho dostali, zavěšte na buben, válku jsme vyhráli. It means we overcame Brundibar, and in our eyes, Brundibar was Hitler. We overcame Hitler, and we won the war against him. When we were on stage, we forgot where we were. We forgot hunger. And art and music played a big part in our lives. In October, most of the transports with Friedel Brandeis, with the kids, were gone. I always thought that with children going to the gas chambers, that Brundibar died with them. But if I see performances now, I feel that Brundibar will live forever.
Terezin was not the only ghetto. Prisoners of the Vilna ghetto were also holding on to their lost culture through art and music. Before Hitler's invasion, Vilna enjoyed a high level of cultural wealth, unmatched in other parts of Europe. Known as the Jerusalem of Lithuania, Vilna was celebrated as the heart of Judaic culture. People enjoyed the luxury of peace. Sundays were spent in the beauty of the Panari forest. Later, that idyllic spot was used for a different kind of gathering.
The Vilna ghetto was still a cultural center. The people who entered the ghetto were sort of the important Jews. And the important Jews, these wichtige Juden, were professional people, and that included artists and composers and people like Durmashkin, who was the conductor of the symphony orchestra. There were so many people who were musicians.
And this is how it started. Started with a choir, another choir, organized a theater, there were some concerts, and for about 1 year, the ghetto of Vilna knew this very, very vibrant cultural activity within, of course, the limits of the horrendous reality. Two poets. One was Avram Sutzkever, who was very much interested in my art, and Kaczergiński, another man who wrote many of the famous songs of the ghetto and so on. The two of them decided to show me to the public of the ghetto, and they organized my first show at the age of 9. In the foyer of the theater was an exhibition of several artists of the ghetto, but I had there an entire wall dedicated to my drawings, with something like 25 or 30 drawings. These were mostly images of escapism. I mean, this sounds very strange, because the last thing you could imagine for a show, a place for a show, is a ghetto.
The Jews who lived in the poor areas they took all of them to Ponari because they didn't have professions. They were not trained enough. So engineers they took to the ghetto. It's the poor people who really left their homes. When we walked into a ghetto room, there were still pieces of bread on the table and half cups of coffee, because these people were taken out of their beds and put in trucks and took them straight to Ponari.
The people needed, simply for the sake of their own soul, of their own identity, of their own survival, they needed culture. They needed something to give a meaning to their life.
So I once said to my father, "Daddy, I don't want to die." And it just absolutely destroyed him. He heard that word because he knew that I would die. So I remember him crying and he said, "Don't worry, you're not gonna die. Maybe I'll die, but you won't die." And he did. Vilna had about 80,000 Jews, and about half of them were slaughtered at Ponari.
Hitler's so-called masterpiece of German supremacy was growing. No one was safe from his sweeping paintbrush of death and destruction.
I'm a gypsy, and I got the same birthday as Hitler, you know. I got in my blood something else, you know, from the sky. And the gypsy is free, and that's the color free. Green, blue, red. I got here. When I was 11 years old, 4 o'clock in the morning, come for Gestapo, and they take my father away. They arrested him. He put him to Mauthausen, a concentration camp here in Austria. And he writes on the letter, "Hello, my children, my wife. Don't worry, I come a couple of days, I'll be home." Four weeks later, they came for Gestapo and in my school. And my teacher said, "Salk Stoiker, come out, you go with these people." There was only the one gypsy in the school. They put me to my family, and they put us in the prison. And we was over 500-600 gypsies. We was 8 days. We drive 800 persons with the train from Vienna to Auschwitz. And second day died 2 children, 1 year and 2 years, and we put it in the corner. The third day, an old man died, a pregnant woman died, we put it all in the corner. Fifth day, it was about 15 persons. We put it all in the corner in this male bed. March 1943, we come to Rampean, Auschwitz-Birkenau. They opened the door. Out! And there was all SS, SR and the dog and die cry, aufsteigen, raus mit euch! Mengele said the men on the right side and the girls left side. And we was only 50 people. 33 people die inside.
Only 32 years old, Dr. Mengele was the chief physician of Auschwitz. His dashing good looks were the first impression he gave the inmates, but he was the angel of death.
After 2 or 3 days of the most horrible experience, you were unloaded and you arrived in a completely different world, a world you couldn't ever imagine that it exists. Suddenly you were deprived of the last dignity you may still had in Theresienstadt, because in Theresienstadt was still something left. Auschwitz, that was the end. You arrived in a modern hell.
My name was Paul Stoiker, and they robbed my name, and my new name was Fat Gypsy 5742. They hold my hand, and they put the nail so it. That's my name. That was my name in Auschwitz, Birkenau.
You were put at mid of the night under terrible screams and shouting and beating into a block that was a stall for 18 horses or so, and suddenly there were 800 people. If you ask somebody, where are we? So he said, you are here, it's the end station. You have a chance to live 3 months. And when we asked, where are these people? They showed up in the chimney. We didn't know what it is, but something horrible. And if you don't like it, here are the electric wires. You can go and kill yourself.
Every day on the ramp, 3-4 transports with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. And Mengele stayed there and they say only left, left, left. A young woman and a young boy, he said right, right, right. And from the 3,000, he said for 80% right, and the 2,920 is they left. And they wait 5, 6, 7 hours every day to come in crematorium and they burn the fire, come again out.
He stood on the ramp as arrivals came in, and with a casual wave was responsible for the deaths of 400,000 human beings.
We were put in the so-called sauna, where we had to strip and put all our possession into a block, and even sign a paper that we entered by our free will against the anger of the population. We came back to our camp, and there in this family camp, there was a former youth leader, Freddy Hirsch, and he became the capo, the head of the children. And because I knew Freddy from Theresienstadt, I came into this block. And this block, in the care of Freddy Hirsch, and what he has done, enabled us later on to survive. We were lucky because we were a group of children, meaning we were not atomized like the rest. The rest of the people, everyone was alone, completely alone, and had to fight really like an animal for surviving.
Freddie Hirsch called me to the children's barracks. He was heading then, and he asked me if I could paint something on the wall for the children. And I said, well, if you can get the materials, he said, I'll get the materials. And so before I knew it, Freddie had the stuff ready for me, and I started painting. At first, I thought, well, the thing to do is to make it look like we are in a Swiss chalet on the deck, and there is a balustrade with flowers on flower pots on it. Behind the railing was a lot of meadows and mountains and blue sky, the things that I thought we'd never see again, and the children certainly didn't. Then I noticed that all the kids were standing around me, behind me. So I turned around and I asked them if they would, do they have any special wish what to put in that meadow? And they said, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
My memoirs are of this woman who decorated these wooden barracks with their, I don't know how you would call it today, with the drawings, and it was in colors.
A SS man named Lucas saw it, and he was the one who took me down to Mengele. Now, when Lucas asked me to get in his Jeep in our family camp, I was looking around to see my mother, to wave goodbye to, because I was sure that I'm going to a gas chamber. Then we were driven to the gypsy camp. And there was Mengele, and Mengele was trying to photograph gypsies then, and Lucas told him, he is the painter I told you about. And Mengele said, do you think you can paint as accurate as a photograph and get the colors right? Because in photography, the colors come out too garish, they are not correct. And I said, I can try. Dr. Hellman said, Dr. Mengele would like to put you on his list. He would like you to stay here and not go to the work camp. And I thought, I said, very nervily, I said, well, what about my mother? And Dr. Mengele just looked for a moment and he said, somebody fetch her mother. So he had an assistant run and fetch my mother, who came and showed her number. And he put my number and her number at the bottom of the list.
I work for Dr. Mengele. I know Dr. Mengele personally. I worked for him 1.5 years. I work for him. I make their shoes, their jacket, their pistol, I clean, you know. I was 11, 12 years old. I make breakfast and I clean everything. I was a girl for everything, you know. This way I know this way. And this way, Dr. Mengele, he said, Carl and Stoico family have to go out. He helped me.
Dr. Mengele had a fixation with gypsies and twins. His obsession with racial purity drove him to conduct gruesome, sadistic experiments. He used people like laboratory rats and performed ghastly surgeries on them without anesthesia.
Dr. Mengele had 2 rooms in his office. In one room, in the first room, he set me up to do the painting. And I said, so who do I paint? I said, well, pick somebody. And I went outside and I picked a very pretty girl. And I brought her back and I painted her first. In another room, Dr. Mengele always had groups of gypsies brought in. And he was measuring their heads, He was taking fingerprints. And he called me to look at this, like he said, the color is always darker around the waist than above it. These people were so emaciated. These were people who were starving.
My brother, he was 7 years old. He was sick, and he was all time alone in the barrack on his bed. And yeah, he cannot walk. My mother walked, my brother walked, every walk on the stone, outside. And when somebody gave him a bread, somebody stole him. He was hungry and he was sick and he died there with 7 years old.
And there was a little boy who was sort of like a runner there for Mengele. Whenever Mengele left and he was sure that he was gone, he always came and said, come on, let's go. And then we went to other barracks to look around. Then I went to paint another girl, and that was Céline. And she was French. She was so beautiful in a fine, delicate way, like a porcelain doll. And I thought, with that blue scarf she wore, I make her look like a Madonna. And I took the scarf and untied it, and I draped it around her head like that. And then Mengele came in, and he said, yeah, but I want the ear. And he took the scarf and put it behind her ears. He was trying to see how her ear was formed. And then I asked her if I can do anything for her, because I think she looked sick. So the next time Mengele sent lunch for me, I said, could I have white bread, please? And so I got white bread every day, which I gave to Céline, which helped her. We became friends. I wanted to keep Céline as long as possible with me there. Soon after I finished painting the gypsies, the entire camp was exterminated. Céline with them.
Mengele call only the numbers. Children, families. Das war die Liquidation. Six, 7,000 gypsy. Children, old women, pregnant, sick men. Mengele, he killed all in the gas chamber 5 and 4. Meat he take out. The next day they burn all off in crematorium. And they burn 5, 6 days, day and night. The 3rd August 1944, Gyps camp was empty. Not one life was there.
Perversely, throughout the desperate years of war, the Nazis' appreciation for talent remained strong.
I was in my last concentration camp in Mauthausen, and somebody was coming from the functionaries and asked people on our block, and it was 1,500, who can make a draft? And he say, you will receive a half soup more. And I say, I can make a draft. Because on the dead block, we receive only 1 soup daily. My weight was less than 100 pounds.
Life expectancy in Mauthausen was no more than 3 days.
He gave me the pencil, and then he bring me paper. And I was made this draft about during a week.
But at night, he lay in his straw bunk and secretly made sketches testifying to the brutality, death, and devastation of the camp. The urgency to document was vital. Upon liberation, he put his drawings into the hands of his American rescuers.
I made maybe 30 or 40 drawings. When they had found them, immediately they had killed me. And I make it as a witness. Camp Mauthausen is every stone was a human being. Into the camp was 186 steps. And every 10 steps was a guard and had beaten people to go quick with a stone of 20 kilos. There was a number of people. They make drawings in concentration camp, especially in Auschwitz. They were shot immediately.
When life is regimented to the nth degree, being in front of a white rectangle and arranging whatever one plans on doing with it, I was in total control. I was the one that decided what goes here, there, the mood, the outline, the composition. It was an escape. That, by the way, went for all art. Singers, musicians, anybody who performed was on his or her own. That is, the way you sing a song or perform as an actor was not controlled by anybody but the author, the actor, and possibly the person who directed the play.
The Nazis set up official camp orchestras made up of inmates cruelly forced to play joyous marches to drown out the screams of prisoners as they were gassed. Musicians were also kept as slave performers to play for the guards' personal entertainment.
I went through a horrible cold winter with large snowfalls and sub-zero temperatures. My strength and my luck were about to run out. Because, mind you, I was working at a detail marching to town, and probably 4 to 5 kilometers, say 3 miles, in wooden shoes and clothing and striped uniform, and wind was blowing through you, and being undernourished, and frostbitten toes, and you march in wooden shoes. And if you march out of step, you're going to get hit or kicked, or you fall down, you become a straggler, and the stragglers are being shot. So I knew this is I can't last much longer. And as I lay one night on my upper bunk, contemplating my next day ordeal, my pants were still wet from the day's snowfall or marching, falling asleep right away. Sleep wasn't very deep because anything could wake you. And someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Henry, get up." He said, "Commandant wants you." And I said, "Oh my God, Commandant wants me." They probably wrote my number down. Maybe I marched out of step, or they thought I was too skinny and too weak to work. So they marked me down for extermination. He said, "Oh, no, 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 no." He says, "You know, get dressed as quick as you can." He says, "The Commandant wants you." He says, "I know you play the harmonica very well, and Commandant has a lot of harmonicas, and he can't play Water Dam." We came to the Commandant's quarters, nice lit up and warm. He was sitting in an easy chair, sort of like this one, stroking his German Shepherd and a bottle of whatever. He reached for something and he said, "Here." And he threw a harmonica at me. And he says, "Spiel doch was vom Schubert." Play something from Schubert. And I said, "Oh my God, Schubert. This is difficult stuff, heavy stuff. I haven't had a harmonica. I didn't practice for a long time." I put my harmonica to my lips, and the picture of Yaja, of my sweetheart, came to my mind. And I thought maybe, you know, if I do well, maybe we'll get reunited again. Miracle happened. I didn't have to go anymore, march to work with my detail in the snow and the frost with frostbitten toes. Instead, I got a job in a kitchen. I mean, mind you, a kitchen would be like today if you win the lottery. Not only did I get a job in a kitchen, but in the evening I played at the mess hall for the guards. I ate better, and without having the extra food to supplement my ration, I would have never picked up my lost weight and never got on my feet again, because this meant this was a lifeline. And so by working in the kitchen, probably in less than maybe 3 or 4 weeks at the most, I picked up, I went to from 85 pounds or 80 pounds to perhaps 100, 110, because I could eat all the potatoes, carrots, and extra soup, and an extra piece of bread. And I consider that particular episode a miraculous, it's a miracle sent from God. That orderly knew me from another camp, and the Commandant happened to have harmonicas.
After the war, I took 2 suitcases full of drawings, which were in good order, in good shape, and took them to Prague.
10 years later, the suitcases were opened, and all the saved art of the perished children was finally made available to the world.
I have to do everything in order to remain it in the memory of mankind.
We really didn't know what to expect when we get home. We hope that friends will come back, that they will be alive. And after a while, we found out that there is no hope. They will not come back, that they died. I'm one of the 100 children that we were kept in Terezin at the end. Please remember my friends. because they are not here to speak for themselves. We are from the main cast, only 2 of us. We are survivors. I'm here, and that's what I do now, speak in their voices.
The minute I heard Wunderbar, I thought, this is a masterpiece. I mean, this is not something that's of value simply because it was created in such terrible circumstances and survived the Holocaust, even though its creator didn't. It's actually a great work of art. To think of these kids singing this in this camp when everything normal has been completely, violently extirpated, and it's just shattering. This is a story not about good being defeated by evil, but about good triumphing over evil.
Everyone and all the other kids were so excited that you were coming. And I remember when I met her before I asked her to sing my lines in the original Czech music, and it was so interesting hearing it in the way that it was originally written.
We will sing it together.
Oh, God.
Já se jmenuju Pepiček, dávno mi zemřel tátiček, za ruku vedu paninku, máme nemocnou mámin.
I sometimes did pieces that were done in the style or through the eyes of a child, not as an adult, because I was a child. Okay. The Holocaust, it's a very important part to me. I want to record and preserve history. I know I have to do it. I'm compelled to do it, and I will continue to do it.
I have to do it without much question. I have to say and have to get rid of my memories. And as I told you, in the very beginning, for the purpose, maybe it will have some meaning once for somebody. And I kept these drawings. And now, after so many years, time is maybe ripe that people can learn something of it.
An artist will always draw. He needed to put it down for the next generation of generations to come.
Painting these things is both catharsis and also very, very dangerous. I mean, being, I don't paint these things easily, because it means immersing oneself in feelings, in memories that are far from positive. The camps, I compare it to music, that the camps are a crazy bass playing inside of me, and I have no control over it. And I've learned to play the fiddle above it, so that there should be some harmony to my life. And art is one of my fiddles.
I do it because I was on the dead block, and my future was maybe I will die in a week or die in 2 weeks, and I wish that remains something from me. I give here a motto. Oh Lord, don't forgive them because they know what they are doing.
My art has been very, very profoundly marked by the Shoah, by having experienced not only the survival of the Shoah, but having experienced what it was living among the survivors of the Shoah for so many years. That boy is the million Jewish children that were killed. That boy is a sort of a self-portrait in as far as I carry in me today the survivor of all those million children that did not survive.
Right after liberation, I was reunited with my sweetheart, Yaja. She says, would you ever believe it, you ever played in a free country, in a temple at that, and tell the story? And no, I've never in my wildest dream believed that I would ever get the opportunity to sing and play in the free world as a free man. I would never thought that a harmonica would be a lifesaver.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you think?
Oh my God. This was yesterday. It's not 55 years ago. Yeah. I make over 1,000 pictures. But I won't forget everything, you know. My life in concentration camp was really, really, really bad. And I like to make this picture for the world.
I'm creating again. I think I got somehow inspired by my gypsy paintings. They are people that I have sat with and looked in their eyes and heard some of their stories when Mengele wasn't around. Also, they saved my life. I'm trying now to recreate some of my family in sculpture and paintings. I think I want to recreate everybody.
All of us in Auschwitz only red, only fire. And still, today, I got this fire. I see this fire. Nobody can take it out from me. Only maybe the dead, when he come to me, he take it away. This fire, yeah.
I would like you to meet Stina Babbitt, who painted all the gypsies. You said you wanted to meet her.
Do you recognize any of these people?
Yeah, I know her. I know her, I know his mother.
Human hands made this art because human eyes had seen the horrors but had not become inured to horrors, and human souls understood the pain but had not become indifferent to even a steady diet of pain. And for each piece here, there are 100 more that did not escape Terezin or Vilna or Auschwitz. And for every 100 of those, there are thousands who did not escape the fate of the painters who would have painted them, because those painters died on some surgical table or in some gas chamber, or were worked to death, or starved to death. For every 1,000 lost, there were millions whose hearts were broken, but who said, "My heart may be broken, but my knees will not bend to inhumanity." This artwork is a testimony to the past and a legacy for the future. The human spirit may be dragged into a cavern of bloodthirst and cruelty, but the one miracle of life is that the spirit may soar into the sunlight, saying, "I bear hope upon my shoulder and faith in tomorrow."
The taming of the memory, the heartache of the soul, tears that bring forgiveness, the fear of letting go. With every breath, with every step, the truth becomes so clear, leading me closer, bringing me near to the heart of the art of the soul, where the tears and the fears make us whole. Let the canvas reveal the pain as it heals in the heart of the art of the soul. The daybreak tempts my spirit and helps to make it seem that night won't last forever. If I use the dark to dream,